legislature actually passed a bill saying that if you're just a resident in Illinois for 3 months, you can go ahead and change your name. And in that bill, they literally talk about this ability being open to illegals. You know what? In my segment, in the 735 segment, we're going to be talking with State Senator Chapin Rose about that and some other alarming things that passed during lame duck session. By the way, I wrote about all that. You can go to breakthrough-ideas.com. You can look under my name, under read, and you can read about lame duck session because I went through a number of bills. But this one caught me this morning. And, speaking about, Pritzker being a one-man, they're actually both wrecking balls, but Biden on his way out of office being a wrecking ball. I was very curious when Maria Bartiromo had Senator Hagerty on with her, and they were discussing the takeover of a Vulcan port and material processing place where they process rock in Mexico, and Mexico's actually planning on taking it over, appropriating it. And I was just shocked because the Wall Street Journal actually wrote, and Maria Bartiromo referred to it, Biden's midnight trade sabotage. The president wants to rewrite trade deals to remove protections for U.S. investors in Mexico and Colombia. And in this case, according to the Wall Street Journal, Mexico is interested in this Vulcan materials plant that actually has a deep water port. And why? Because they want to take this prime piece of property that is on the Yucatan Peninsula, and they want to turn it into a tourist port where very, very large cruise ships can come in and they can get tourist money from that. That's what they want to do. And in the meantime, they are essentially violating a bunch of trade rules that we have with them, with the USMCA, and they're scrapping all those protections for investments, and they're essentially trying to take over the property. And guess what? Biden appears to be making that available to them, just changing this trade policy. They're negotiating with, apparently, according to this article, they're negotiating with Mexican and Colombian governments to add interpretive text to U.S. trade agreements that would make it harder for Vulcan and other U.S. businesses to prevail in international tribunals. That's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to do this without a vote in Congress. Well, here's Bill Hagerty explaining exactly what Biden's doing on the way out the door. I'm going to play this clip for you.
Joe Biden is taking every opportunity to wage war on the American economy and on the private sector. So in this case, you've got Vulcan Materials, an iconic American company that has used American dollars to build a massive quarry operation and a deep water port for decades they've been operating. What America needs to do is stand up for its private sector. What Mexico has done is stepped in and stolen this property. It's expropriated it. And what the Biden administration is doing here at the 11th hour is trying to hand this over to Mexico. It's amazing that they would let the Mexican government come in and expropriate a strategic deep water port that I'm certain if Mexico is able to get this for nothing, it will become, for sale to the highest bidder. It could be a crown jewel in China's Belt and Road. And if you think about the criticality of the stone that comes from that port, we rely on this in the entirety of the southeastern United States to build our infrastructure. What Biden wants to do is allow Vulcan Materials to be crushed by the Mexican government, again, with impunity. This type of thing at the 11th hour just underscores the fact that this administration and the radical left believe in central government control of every asset. They're happy to surrender our sovereignty, to surrender the rights of the U.S. private sector in order to see central control, even if it's in the hands of an unfriendly government like Mexico that has allowed fentanyl to cross the border, has allowed criminals to come into our country, that has allowed the mass, influx of 10 million, 15 million or more to completely invade our country during the Biden administration. They're going to reward the Mexican government for this. I'm going to spend every moment I can this next week to try to stop them in the 11th hour so this does not happen in America.
Did you catch that? So at least Senator Hagerty, Tennessee, by the way, they have got great senators, him and Marsha Blackburn. He said he's going to spend every waking moment trying to end this Vulcan deal, this takeover of Vulcan Materials, a deep water port, by the Mexican government. But Biden's trying to keep it happening. You can't, I don't know. I start out wanting to just talk about the pure incompetence of elected officials, and we're going to get there. In this case, I don't know if it's Biden's incompetence because, does anybody believe that he's making this decision? No, nobody believes that Biden is actually making a decision to hand over Vulcan Materials Deepwater Port to the Mexican government. Nobody believes that. So it's nefarious. It's nefarious at this point. All right, looking back though, let's look at the other headlines. Let's go to the other coast, not Washington, D.C. Let's go to California. The incompetence there is on full display. Californians elected some of the most incompetent people to run their city and state. And now they can't hide from it. And so this is a story that cannot just pass away as the fires are extinguished and people start to rebuild their lives, and the focus of the entire nation is, changed to something else going on. This is one of those stories, one of those case studies that must be studied in every management class from here on out, and actually political classes, because it tells you everything about what's wrong in America. They essentially hired and elected a bunch of DEI folks that have no idea how to run complicated systems, or actually not even systems that are that complicated. After all, California's prior to this had been clearing brush for a very, very long time. They had water systems that worked naturally to quell forest fires. And these were systems that were working until you got political whack jobs elected to office that listened to the environmentalists. And their incompetence. This is not climate change. By the way, we're going to dispel all the myths that this was related to climate change. We'll do that in the 8 o'clock hour with Steve Goreham. He's going to be coming in about that. We're also going to talk about, is 2025 going to signal the end of green energy? Well, we hope so. Because a lot of what you're seeing in California is the result of the whole green energy environmentalist scam that's been perpetrated on the American public. So, Devin Nunes, again, he was on Maria Bartiromo. This is a little bit of a longer clip, but I want to play it. This is him explaining exactly what went on.
There are about 40 years of policies that are very, very critical to this. But it's pretty simple. It's water, it's grazing, it's logging. Those industries have all been hampered. If you look at agriculture, we're down in land that's being farmed because of lack of water. This means when farms don't get water, guess what? The LA Basin also doesn't get water. So as you're building out and adding people and adding homes in the Los Angeles Basin, if you don't have an adequate, abundant water supply and you're rationing water, the people that are building those homes, the city planners, they're not putting in green areas, they're not building fire breaks. If you run the farmers and ranchers out of the state of California, guess what? You don't have the animals to sit there and graze. So a combination of the proper land management would solve all of this problem. Now, what's going to happen? They're going to, just like they've done for the last 20 years, California's going to run to the federal government, and they're going to ask for money. And I think this time, hopefully, I think President Trump and the Republicans in Congress will say, look, we're just not going to keep doing the same thing again. So California's going to need a lot of money, and I feel bad. I have friends that lost homes. Some of the most wealthy real estate in the planet has burnt to a crisp, is burnt to the ground, and it all should be built back. But it has to be built back when California decides that they're actually going to use the water infrastructure that's been built in the state for the last 100 years. They're going to actually use it and allow the water to flow into places like Los Angeles. They're going to bring the timber industry back so you can actually efficiently go and get the logs and the dead trees and everything out of the forest, and so that you can actually, and then also managing that vegetation growth and building in fire breaks. That's what has to happen. Now, what I'm concerned about is, will these people that lost their home, who have consistently voted for people like Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, before that, who've given money to these radical green causes, who have embraced the Green New Deal, are they going to sing from the same verse that they've been singing from for 30 years? And are they going to tell the people, oh, this is global warming? There's no issue here. This is all about climate change. If the politicians in California say that again, hopefully the voters in California will say, we're not going to take this nonsense anymore. Let's just let the water flow. Let's let the animals back on the land. Let's mow the grass. Let's clean the forest. Let's build proper fire breaks. Yeah. Let's have green areas. That's how you solve this problem, Maria.
You see, it could have all been solved by man-made solutions that California already had prior to that. Writing in the Wall Street Journal, Tom McClintock, congressman from the 5th District of California, said, Prior to 1800, California lost an average of around 4.5 million acres to fires every year. As we introduced scientific land management and fire suppression measures, by the end of the 20th century, that average dropped to around 250,000 acres. So 4.5 million to 250,000 acres. But in 2020, California suffered a single-year loss of 4.3 million acres to wildfires. Between 2019 and 2023, an average of more than 1.5 million acres burned each year. He says what happened? The left blames climate change, but that doesn't explain California's long history with massive wildfires or why fires became less threatening throughout most of the 20th century. We can find a more likely culprit in the state's recent extreme environmental and social policies. That's right, just like Devin Nunes said, just like he said. Well, the other alarming thing that Biden said is that he wants to pay for all of the firefighter salaries in California. He wants to pay for all the debris pickup. He wants to pay for all the housing needs for those displaced and much, much more for the next 6 months. Well, we're going to go to break, and when I get back to you, I'll tell you exactly what those firefighters are making in salary and benefits, and you'll be appalled. And then you're going to call your congressperson and say, there's no way in hell we're bailing out California firefighters. Not doing it. They get what everybody else got from FEMA. We'll be right back. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
We've started a new year. There's a buzz in the air. With the new incoming administration, what expectations do you have? Will we see a turnaround in the economy? Will inflation come down? And is there a way to stop the chaos on our southern border? Yeah, 2025 comes with some big expectations. And we're here to keep track of the goals. Here's to a great new year together. AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm 71 years old, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to switch over and give it a try was that I would rather take something of natural ingredients.
I'm almost 70 years old. I still work 12 to 14 hours every day, between 55 and 60 hours a week. And there's people half my age have trouble doing what I do. Balanced Nature sounded like a good idea, and once I started taking it, I found out it was a great idea.
Happy New Year! Start the year right and get big savings on Balance of Nature supplements with our limited time New Year's deal. Sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first preferred set, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com and get this exclusive New Year's offer by using discount code Chicago.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
AM 560 listeners, sign up today to receive a free financial education video series, The 5 Retirement Pitfalls and How to Avoid Them, courtesy of Steve Shyman, host of Protecting Your Assets radio show, Saturdays at 8 a.m. Sign up is easy, and the 5-part video series is completely free and will arrive in your email inbox. Sign up today. It's free. Please text your name and email address to 833-945-7283. Again, please text your name and email address to 833-945-7283.
Attention American homeowners, you're under attack. Your home and equity could be vulnerable to cyber thieves. There's only one company that completely stops them, and that company is Equity Protect. Equity Protect prevents any attempts to steal your home, equity, and ownership 24/7. Get your free risk report today by texting the word HOME to 94878. That's right, text the word HOME to 94878 to get your free risk report. Keep your equity and legacy safe with Equity Protect.
We now return to the real story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining me tonight. The phone number here is 312-642-5600. Hey, you know what? Because I really like this caller, we're going to take Eduardo from Tampa Bay before I get to tell you how much those firefighters make in California that you're going to be paying for. Eduardo, thank you so much for joining me on The Real Story.
Yeah, good evening, Jeannie. You know, I heard that the New York firefighters were going to pay for their own flight to L.A. here. But, you know, what is the problem also is the Pacific Gas and Electric giving money to Gavin Newsom. And I saw a story where Edison International had a down conductor. So you have this pay-to-play politics just like in New York with that Turkey influence from overseas. And Karen Bass, I heard from the LA station I listened to during the day, she's up to almost like 50,000 as of Friday on 50K on the recall. So she might get bounced.
Well, that'd be great. Eduardo, I mean, you live in Florida. You've seen the response that you get from a governor like Ron DeSantis. I mean, he pretty much has been on the ground, hands-on, has really managed all of his hurricanes very, very well, the response to them, rather.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, I think you guys built roads in like 14 days. And, I mean, it's just night and day between the two governors as to how they've handled, disasters.
Yeah, they got to take note, so much more efficient than on the other side of the coast.
Yep. All right. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it
All right,
very
thank
much.
You. Have a good evening.
Yeah. So I was mentioning earlier that, apparently, the price tag could be $150 billion for the complete rebuild. I mean, that's one of the numbers that is getting thrown out there. But in the meantime, Biden has already offered up that federal taxpayers using FEMA funds, I guess, and it's going to have to be more than just FEMA funds. I think you're going to bankrupt that. But he's going to use federal taxpayers to pay for all expenses for the next 6 months related to the California wildfire. And so I really do appreciate the fact that Alicia Finley wrote this article in the Wall Street Journal, how the left turned California into a paradise lost. And she starts out with this, which is really important to know. After the November election, Gavin Newsom announced his plans to Trump-proof the Golden State. How about fireproofing, she says. And that's right. He literally had the legislature in for a special session to decide how they can Trump-proof California. Shore up against anything that Trump would do in terms of renewable energy, shore him up against illegal immigration, deportation, shore him up against absolutely everything that they want to do. That's what his focus was on. And so she goes on to say that Los Angeles horrific fires are exposing the costs of its progressive follies. You know what? Nobody wants this tragedy to happen, but like I said, maybe this is a tipping point for people. Maybe this will wake up some Californians. Maybe it will expose the nonsense that's been going on. And many people have said the same thing. She said, start with its environmental obsessions. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power in 2019 sought to widen a fire access road and replace old wooden utility poles in the Topanga Canyon abutting the Palisades with steel ones to make power lines fire and wind resistant. In the process, crews removed an estimated 182 Broughton's milk vetch plants, an endangered species. The utility halted the project as state officials investigated the plant destruction. More than a year later, the California Coastal Commission issued a cease and desist order, fined the utility $2 million, and required mitigation for the project's impact on the species. Well, now, because they don't have really sturdy power lines, guess what they're doing? Shutting down the power. So just when you need the power to, run the water pumps, to pump the water from the reservoirs to the pumping stations to the fire hydrants, just when you need that, they shut the power down because they could also spark fires. So they don't even want to fix the problems. Anyway, she goes on Next, consider the government's misallocation of resources. Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley complains the city cut her budget by $17 million last spring, which she says reduced overtime compensation and interfered with wildfire preparation. Alicia Finley smartly then says, maybe. Though the veteran firefighter may also be saying this to get more money for her department. And I actually thought the same thing. Okay, a $17 million cut. I don't know if that's significant or not to that fire department. And more likely than not, they probably are fairly well compensated. Well, Alicia Finley has the answer. In truth, the fire budget didn't shrink since city leaders last autumn approved a new union contract that boosted pay and benefits by $76 million, about $20,000 per firefighter. Even before this raise, firefighters on average earned about $200,000 plus $90,000 in benefits. Many can retire at 55 with pensions equaling 90% of their final salaries. So, Los Angeles spent $350 million this year on firefighter pensions and benefits. Much of that would have been better spent on fire prevention, which made up only 5% of the department's budget. Ms. Crawley calls diversity, inclusion, and equity a top priority, and the fire department boasted 9 DEI positions. Now, this brings up a really interesting point. And, I don't have time to play this clip. I'm going to have to play it in the next half hour. I can't believe it. But Adam Carolla has been speaking out a lot. Of course, he lives in that area. I'm not sure if he has found out whether or not his house withstood the fire. I think actually that it got destroyed. But anyway, he was on a number of different podcasts. And the funny one is that, 7 years ago, or actually, no, he actually testified in Congress that he actually applied to become a firefighter. He was out of work. He needed to do something. And so he's like 19, decided to apply to be a firefighter in Los Angeles area. And lo and behold, they said, well, you really probably won't get called because you're a white male. That's essentially what they said. 7 years later, they called him and invited him to go to the test. And he ends up going to the test. And when I get back, I'll play the clip of what he finds from the other firefighters that are also in line to take this test and how long it took them and who they were. I think it tells you everything you need to know about what's wrong with what's going on in Los Angeles. So stick with me. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. We've got a lot of material to cover. Also coming back after the break, we'll have State Senator Chapin Rose on. This is The Real Story. Thanks for joining me.
Mike Gallagher is honest with himself.
I hate how much I enjoyed watching Kamala Harris certify her own defeat. I'm not proud of myself. My wife used to say, Gallagher, you are a little man. And I am. I'm just petty. I'm petty and maybe mean-spirited.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Maloney, winds picking up as wildfires continue burning down communities in Southern California. Orange County Fire Chief Brian Fennessy telling Fox News Live.
30-mile-an-hour winds with 50-mile-an-hour gusts are devastating. Mm-hmm. They're not 80-mile-an-hour winds and 100. That they're somewhat more manageable. But this is a concern for us.
At least 16 people confirmed dead. Confirmation hearings this week for President-elect Trump's cabinet picks, including Pete Hegseth, nominated for defense secretary.
Hegseth is one of several of President-elect Trump's nominees set to testify before senators this week. CIA Director nominee John Ratcliffe will appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz with that report. America is listening to Fox News.
Hut, hut. Listen up and listen up good. If you're tired of run-of-the-mill gifts, then get on over to aviatorfuel.com. You'll find unique military-style cocktail books and barware to go with it. At aviatorfuel.com, we've got the perfect gift for any soldier, sailor, Marine, or just red-blooded American. You'll especially love our military cocktail checklists, modeled off the real Army, Navy, and Marine pilot checklists that military aviators have used for decades. These award-winning books are authentic replicas, but instead of a procedure on how to handle an engine fire, You'll find the procedure for how to make a mojito, written with military jargon throughout. So pick up a cocktail checklist from aviatorfuel.com. Invite some old friends to share war stories over cocktails. Your perfect libation is inside the cocktail checklist. And don't forget matching military-themed barware. Go to aviatorfuel.com and get ready to raise a glass to the brave men and women who serve our country. That's aviatorfuel.com.
Do you know what to do when a car is pulled over on the side of the road? First, reduce your speed. Second, change lanes if possible. Third, proceed with caution. These 3 simple steps can be the difference between life and death. The next time you're on the road, do the right thing. Slow down, move over, and drive like your life and their life depends on it. Sponsored by the Illinois Broadcasters Association. Aired in cooperation with this station. Thanks to the AAA Auto Club for their financial support in the airing of this message.
Come on with this, people. Move it!
Did you really think you could make that company deliver yourself?
Oh, I cannot handle any more traffic.
You could be getting much more done at your place of business.
I've wasted 45 minutes and now this place is gonna close.
Time is money. Let Quick Delivery Service take on the traffic hassle for you. They'll deliver almost anything, from large pallets of materials to important documents, or both. No forms, no labels, no scanning. Just tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going, they'll pick it up, and get it to your destination quickly. Your cargo delivery is tracked in real time with GPS. Notifications are delivered right to your inbox. Visit quickdelivery.com. That's quickdelivery.com. Or you can deliver like this.
Seriously, another train?
Or get your delivery there on time with quickdelivery.com. Or call 847-534-2244. 847-534-2244.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you'll get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $18.88. Upgrade to king-size for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever and receive free shipping on orders over $75. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. They have never been offered this low before. They're limited quantities at this price, so the limit is going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88, the lowest price ever.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
The Real Story with Jeannie Ives continues on AM 560. The Answer.
All right. Thanks for joining me tonight. The phone number is 312-642-5600. Patrick from Schaumburg, I know you dropped off. You had a question or a comment. You know what? Call back in. I would love to take your question at the end of this half hour. I found it very interesting, the topic that you were going to bring up about the L.A. deputy mayor. Apparently he was caught calling in bomb threats. Very good. All right. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, I think every blue state kind of has its wildfire. And it won't be a wildfire. It may be something else. But it's going to be a tipping point event. It's going to be something that essentially wakens up the voters there to the incompetence of their government. There's no doubt it's going to happen. Absolutely. In the state of Illinois, I think it might be an energy supply. But anyway, we just finished up lame duck session in Springfield. Not me, but those folks who were down there. And then the new legislators were sworn into office on Wednesday. So here to talk about some of that stuff that they passed is State Senator Chapin Rose. Chapin's a great guy, served in the House, now serves in the Senate. He's a leader. He understands the budget. He understands the crime stuff. He's just one of my favorite to talk to. So welcome to the program. Thanks for joining me tonight, Chapin.
Hey, thanks so much, Jeannie. And
and we shared the seat.
Yes, we
the
did.
Same seat in the house. So
it was the best seat
from
in
me
the house.
to you. So yeah,
Yes.
and the best seat in the house. That's right.
It was, yeah.
Good talking to you. Good talking to you.
Yeah, and Chapin's got a heart out at about 10 to the hour. So that clip that I was going to play of Adam Carolla, which I really want to play, I'll play it towards the end of this half hour for my listeners who are anticipating that we're going to talk about that. But I mean, it's the same sort of discussion that we were having. And Chapin, let's just talk about this power situation because. As I was getting ready for the show, this Wall Street Journal article popped up. Trump speaks the truth to wind power. He says wind farms only work because of subsidies. He's right. Well, that's exactly what Warren Buffett said 10 years ago. He said the only reason to build wind power is to take the tax credits. That's what Warren Buffett said. Number one investor in the country.
You hit the nail on the head when you said that energy is going to cripple Illinois, and us downstaters have been living for the last couple of years with just catastrophic increases in our natural gas price and electricity price. And then I saw that in this past year, the new auction for, as you know, there's two different power grids in Illinois. There's a downstate grid, sort of a Chicago grid. But the auction for power for the Chicago grid is now going to go through the roof. And people who are on these local contracts that maybe their local village or town signed all the citizens up in the village for that. As those expire, you guys are going to have some extreme price shock. And I just mean extreme price shock. And, for 3 years, we couldn't get J.B. Pritzker to lift a finger to help us down here. And then I noticed last fall, right when this thing hit, he's the first one out with a press release telling us all how he's going to do something. Well, the reality is he's the one who did it. His policies, this nonsense around energy in this state where you're closing, you're not even look, even if you're buying the whole climate change thing and you want to close the coal-powered plants, you're also closing the natural gas-fired peaker plants, which are 99.9% efficient. Okay, so even if you hate carbon, you're still making idiotic policy decisions by closing the natural gas-fired peakers, especially in the summer. And now, you've had both grid operators, the one for the northern sector and the one for the southern sector, who've come out and said, the next 3 to 5 years, Illinois will be facing brownouts, okay? This is unheard of in the modern era. Absolutely unheard of. Brownouts on a regular basis now facing Illinois because of J.B. Pritzker and his buddies. And he gets away with this like he's this nice guy. And the truth is, he's just like one more, corporate billionaire guy that's trying to make all of his buddies rich, and he's getting away with it.
Well, that's exactly right. The reason you have to look to who's making the money off of wind power, that's the only reason to build wind. It's the producers. The PTC has been in place for 33 years now. It needs to go away. It's been in since 1992. There's no reason for the production tax credit for wind. If subsidies, and in fact, Wall Street Journal said the same thing. They absolutely said that at the bottom of their article. Where is it? Oh, yeah. The reality is that most wind projects wouldn't be built without federal subsidies and state renewable mandates, which we also have. We have an RPS standard. The wind production tax credit was established in 92 to boost an infant industry, but Republicans from wind states like Iowa, Kansas, and Wyoming have joined Democrats to extend it every time it comes close to lapsing. Now, the interesting thing is, renewable mandates. This came up in lame duck session because they put together a 291-page bill that essentially changes dramatically the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that was basically related to renewable energy, and now says, well, we're not building renewable energy fast enough, so what we're going to do is we're going to incentivize battery manufacturers to come in and get additional special tax credits. And then at least in the House, the debate was like, oh, it's not going to cost the ratepayer anything. How can they say that with a straight face, Chapin?
It's insane. It's insane. Look, it'll be more rate hikes. Here's the other thing, too, that no one mentions, and this just gets back to this crony capitalist stuff, okay? And I think you and I are pretty strong capitalists, but what I'm not, and I'm pretty sure you're not, is a crony capitalist. And, our incumbent energy providers in this state are governed by the ICC. And we could have an entirely different argument a different day about the effectiveness of the Illinois Commerce Commission. But they have to go through regulations, and if they want to raise rates, there's a process, there's a hearing, and citizens can object, and they do object, okay? However, part of this renewable stuff, all these, venture capital, wind and solar things, they're not subject to any regulation, okay? Yet, when you say subsidy, let's just be clear to your listeners, subsidy is the dumbest freaking word in the world, because what it really is a tax increase, okay? Because subsidies are ultimately paid by the ratepayers. And who are the ratepayers? They're you and me and everybody else who lives in Illinois that wants to turn their lights on and turn their heater on, okay? Because when we pay our bill once a month, no matter where you're paying it, in Chicagoland or downstate, we ratepayers are the ones paying for all these quote-unquote subsidies. So you're subsidizing a bunch of venture capitalists who literally are not subject to any regulation at all. They can charge whatever they want to charge because there isn't even a commerce commission where they got to go make their case. Okay? I mean, power in the old days, I mean, if you subscribe to, public goods versus private goods, power and military are sort of the two quintessential public goods. There's a reason we don't all have F-16s parked out front, for home defense. It's just not possible.
Right.
But when it comes to electricity and natural gas, we have these big, and you basically say, okay, you're going to be a monopoly, but you're going to be a governed monopoly. But what we've done here is we've taken these wind and solar people and said, we're going to give you a monopoly, but we're not even going to regulate you. Do whatever you want, venture capitalists. Half these people aren't even, a bunch of these companies aren't even certainly not Illinois companies. They're not even American companies.
Well, and the monopoly power that they have and the money that they're getting off of this, it must be so ginormous, because I have heard that in central Illinois, there are farmers that are going to get up to $4,000 an acre to put in a solar field. $4,000 an acre for 30 years guaranteed. They walk away from their farm. They go have a nice life in Arizona or Florida, and they don't have to put seed in the ground, cultivate it, and then also harvest it.
The solar guys in my area are getting more than 4,000.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And I'm also going to tell you this: when all this goes belly up and bankrupt,
it's going to go belly up.
All these things are going to be sitting, rusting out there in a farm field somewhere. There's going to be no money to remove them
and leaching off terrible materials into the ground.
Right, and we can get into this whole another side of sort of the anti-environmentalism thing here. I mean, there's actually studies about how terrible these things are for, like, the monarch butterfly, okay?
Yeah.
The migration of the monarch butterfly, the bald eagle. I mean, all these things environmentalists claim they're for, windmills in particular are really catastrophic. But here's the other thing, and no one is even thinking about this. And I want to, I realize you're up north, but, the area that I represent is literally the best farm ground in the world, bar none, period, okay? You are replacing the best farm ground in the world. I've got a 4,000-acre solar farm in my district right now, okay? They're planning right now, Clark County, Illinois, they're planning on replacing a third of the tillable acres in Clark County, Illinois with solar in the next 2 years. A third of the tillable acres. First of all, why don't you just fire a third of the people in the county, because it's an agrarian rural county, it's all tied to farming. But how are you guys going to get food? How is Chicago going to get food when there's no place to grow?
You just hop in your electric vehicle and you go to the grocery store and there's food there. Chapin, come on.
Food's there.
It's just there, right? We don't have to know how it gets there.
Right. And by the way, if you're let's just talk. Let's go back to 4,000 and just take the number you threw out a second ago. If I'm getting 4,000 per an acre for solar, then I'm going to have to get at least 4,000 per an acre for corn and beans, right? Well, what does that end up doing? What's it end up doing to the price of I don't know. Let's say a loaf of bread. Oh, wait a minute. Let's pick a gallon of milk. You know what cows eat? They eat grain. Okay. How are they going to eat grain when
we'll just import it from Brazil?
Right. So exactly.
That's what they think.
Well, and let's take that down another line. And what does Brazil do? They're just burning down the rainforest, which is actually like the greatest environmental thing we have in the world, right?
Right.
It's a carbon sink.
Huge carbon sink.
And you're burning it down wholesale to create ground for corn and beans.
Okay, this goes back to the core problem we have. And we have an incompetent government writ large. Not you, not other people who get it, but the people in charge right now in Illinois, in California, in New York, in D.C. are incompetent. And voters better wake up, because if they don't, nothing will change. Hey, there's one other story before I let you go, because we're just blowing through the break, and I'm going to have a longer break after this. George, did you catch that? Thank you. He's up on that. Okay, I did want to talk about this one because it's a hot button issue with me. And that's this House Resolution 942 that passed in the House. And it essentially says, Hey, listen, you know what? We got to keep our minority teaching scholarship. This is a this is a scholarship worth $7,500 a year for 4 years if you get it, but you're only qualified to get it if you are a minority. No whites need apply. Do not apply if you're white. And because the Pacific Legal Foundation is suing the state of Illinois over this minority scholarship because it's blatantly unconstitutional. And because she was so upset about that, Laura Favor Diaz, whatever, two last name woman in the state house, she filed this resolution saying we got to support the minority scholarship. And I'll tell you what, and then she actually said on the House floor, Chapin, she said that if you're a minority and you learn from a minority teacher, you do better. And then I looked up the CPS results, and that is not true. Over 50% of the teachers are minorities, and the minority students do terrible.
That's a great stat. You just cited that last.
It's all true. I wrote it out in my newsletter. It's all true.
No, look, the Equal Protection Clause existed for a very good reason, right? Which is that we need to treat everybody equally. And when you look at the case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court a few years ago, which they rightly decided against Harvard, saying, hey, you can't do race-based admissions to colleges. It's just wrong on so many levels. And in fact, that case is based upon Asian Pacific students, basically being turned down. But the bottom line here is we shouldn't be using race as a proxy for virtually anything. First of all, it's insulting on its face to assume that somehow because you're born with a certain skin tone that you're either better or worse than someone else with a different skin tone. I mean, that is ridiculous in this day and age. Yet that is where our colleges and universities continue to default to this sort of race-based proxy for some level of, intervention. Well, what about just saying, hey, I don't care where you live, I expect you to do well, and I'm going to set high expectations, I'm going to set high goals and high bars. And I personally believe that, all students, no matter where they come from and whatever background they're in, if you set high bars, they're going to achieve those bars and they're going to surprise you. But if you keep setting the bar low, saying you're not good enough or you're not qualified enough or you need special help, well, guess what? Suddenly everybody stays, the bar stays low and they never get above that bar. I just think it's crazy that in this day and age, we're still operating off of race-based, proxies for some level of achievement. I mean, it ignores the kid who's born into poverty, who's
like a Ben Carson.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, or it ignores, or how fair is it to the kid, in Southern Illinois whose father died and mom is working 2 jobs to put food on the table. You're going to say that kid doesn't get a chance to go to college? That's ridiculous. I mean, it's just the whole thing's just silly. And again, in this day and age, you'd think we'd be past that, but higher education just seems to like it just wants to keep defaulting to it.
Well, Chapin, you're the best on higher education. I know you sit on those committees. I know you're a U of I graduate, double, I think, with your JD. Double. And I get a lot of good information from you. I'll be watching higher education committee. In the House, at least. I expect you to brief me on the Senate. You also are the one who brought up the fact that they were trying to do race-based funding. And I'll tell you what, I've already talked to Pacific Legal Foundation on suing the state of Illinois if they ever come close to passing something like that. Yeah. So warning shot fired. I want to thank you so much, though, for coming on The Real Story with me. You're a breath of fresh air down in Springfield.
Hey, thanks, Jean, for all you do. We'll look forward to being on again, okay?
Okay, very good.
Happy New Year to you.
You too. And we're going straight to break. We'll be right back after this.
If pain is affecting your life, I've got the perfect New Year's resolution for you. Make 2025 the year of feeling good again. The year of moving better, sleeping better, feeling more alive. Do it with Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by a team of doctors, it doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Over 1 million of us have turned to Relief Factor. Feel the difference it can make in your life. Give their 3-week quick start a try. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Just takes a phone call to 1-800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF. You can start feeling better in 3 weeks or less, and every day you feel better is a day you live better. Wherever you're hurting, back, neck, joints, or muscles, make 2025 the year of feeling good again. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today. Just go to ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF for Relief Factor.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Now, more of The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, as promised, it's Jeannie Ives. This is The Real Story, and I'm going to get back to this Adam Carolla tape. And again, the setup, if you remember, he testified in Congress about the fact that, about DEI policies and how they're just wrong. And in this case, he told the story about when he was going to become a firefighter in California. He was looking for a job. He was age 19. What do I do? And he went there and he said, hey, look, you know what? First of all, you have to take a test, but you're not going to get called, and you'll probably have to wait around 7 years or so. And sure enough, he did. And so he talks about finally getting that call to take the firefighter test. By now, he's on to something else, by the way. But this is what he found out when they wouldn't accept him. They would not accept him. This is who they were accepting into the fire ranks. And this is really, really important because, as you know, diversity, equity, inclusion was the top objective of their lesbian female fire chief in California. And apparently, from what I've read, she wasn't even ever a firefighter. She was only a paramedic. But because, all these unions like to have parity, they made paramedics on the same order level of qualification as a firefighter so that they could move up to the chief spot. And that's exactly what happened. And so you've got a paramedic running the LA Fire Department, essentially. So here you go. This is Adam Carolla.
It's like, well, when are you going to be diverse enough? And they're like, never. But in that clip continues, and the part of it that comes in about 25 seconds is, I took the test to be an LA County fireman. I went and took the written test because I signed up for it, and 7 years later they notified me that my test date had come up. And I just went and took it, even though I was a carpenter by then. I went and took it just because I was like, well, I signed up for this test 7 years ago, which, by the way, when you're 19 is a long time between, 19 and 26, right? That's a lifetime. So I went and took it on a Saturday at Hollywood High. And I was standing in line, and I couldn't believe that I signed up to take a written test to be a firefighter, and 7 years later, they notified me. So I kept asking everyone around me, when did you sign up? I turned to a woman behind me. She was a woman of color who was 5'0" and about 105 pounds. And I looked at her, and I said, when did you sign up to take this test? And she said, Wednesday.
So, who would you want coming to save you?
Adam Carolla with his strapping 26-year-old boxer, carpenter, or a 5-foot person who on a whim probably decided I'll sign my name here?
She looked like Paula Abdul's younger sister, and she didn't look like she could rescue a box of Legos out of a burning house, much less, someone full-grown human.
I mean, that's a great story, isn't it? But you see it all around you. All the time, you see folks that are obviously diversity hires, and I just I got sent this by a friend. Unfortunately, I have a wide swath of friends that send me all sorts of interesting things, and this one came actually from one of my military friends, because of course we have DEI issues in the military as well. And it's written by Harold Robertson in the Palladium, which is Governance Futurism, and it's written 18 months ago, June 1st, 2023. And what it is about, it's about complex systems won't survive the competence crisis. I mean, this is prescient. Absolutely. And in it, he basically says at a casual glance, the recent cascades of American disasters might seem unrelated. In a span of fewer than 6 months in 2017, 3 U.S. naval warships experienced 3 separate collisions, resulting in 17 deaths. A year later, power lines owned by PG&E started a wildfire that killed 85 people. The pipeline carrying almost half of the East Coast gasoline shut down due to a ransomware attack. Almost 500,000 intermodal containers sat on cargo ships, unable to dock at Los Angeles ports. A train carrying thousands of tons of hazardous and flammable chemicals derailed near East Palestine, Ohio. Air traffic control cleared a FedEx plane to land on a runway occupied by a Southwest plane preparing to take off. Eye drops contaminated with antibiotic-resistant bacteria killed 4 and blinded 14. While disasters like these are often front-page news, the broader connection between the disasters barely elicits any mention. And he goes on and on about how this is a DEI society. We'll be right back after this break.
Tishlar, author of High Tech versus the Highest Tech, has shared his knowledge of the spectacular things that we see in nature, as opposed to what man has created, and how this should inform one's faith. Jeff served on the mission field all over the world and has created this highly illustrated and concisely written technical book. The easy-to-read format is understood from the youngest reader to the most intelligent and mature readers. Google and Amazon book reviews include, "This is the best little book I have ever read. It is amazing how much information is in this book." And a beautifully written and illustrated book. The author has a gift for describing complicated technical details in a very understandable style. This book is available now in paperback on Amazon. Search High Tech versus the Highest Tech by Jeff Tishlar. 100% of proceeds go to missions. That's High Tech vs. the Highest Tech by Jeff Tishlar.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer.
The firefight in LA intensifies. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News. Winds are forecast to kick up again this week in Los Angeles, increasing the danger of spreading wildfires.
Be prepared to evacuate. We keep going back to that. But with this next wind event, got to stay informed. Follow all evacuation warnings and orders. And the key here is without delay.
LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. Fox's Max Gordon is in Malibu.
The scope of the devastation really is jaw-dropping. The Palisades fire burned right up to the Pacific Ocean. Multi-million-dollar homes reduced to ashes. Now, where we are, the fire burned right up to the Pacific, had nowhere to go. But on the eastern end of the fire, that's where we saw the bulk of the fire activity. The fire making a run for the neighborhood of Brentwood. Firefighters say that things are relatively buttoned up there, but the threat is not yet over. We're expecting more high winds into next week.
President Biden is promising extensive federal support for California, but some are claiming the response is stagnant.
President Biden is here at the White House meeting with senior officials, getting the latest briefings on those fires in Los Angeles. The White House saying President Biden meeting with his FEMA and DHS chiefs. And over on ABC, Deanne Criswell was asked why hundreds of active duty forces, including Marines, have not been used to combat the fires. Late last week, 10 Navy helicopters arrived from San Diego. They have also not been used. On Sunday morning futures, Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty was critical of officials in Los Angeles and in California, including Governor Gavin Newsom. He says he wants to hold hearings to find out what went wrong with this response.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson, and the death toll now has risen to 24 in those wildfires. America is listening to Fox News.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Tonight, breezy this evening, otherwise colder with clearing and a low of 12. Partly sunny, windy, and colder tomorrow with a high at 20. Clear and frigid tomorrow night with a low of 8. Tuesday, brisk and bitterly cold with plenty of sunshine and a high of 19. Tuesday night, clear and bitterly cold, low 7. Wednesday, plenty of sunshine. We'll see a high of 22. I'm Jillian Ford on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I am a senior citizen, and actually I've seen the commercials, and I started taking it because I thought, well, that sounds like a really good idea.
Well, I saw it. We watch Fox News, and I saw it on there, so I thought to order them. And I'm telling you, it's terrific stuff.
It makes me feel good. So me and my wife both enjoy it,
Because I can't do it without my Balance of Nature.
We've maintained it without taking a lot of food supplements we had been taking. We stopped and are just using Balance of Nature supplements.
Happy New Year! Start the year right and get big savings on Balance of Nature supplements with our limited time New Year's deal. Sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first preferred set, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com and get this exclusive New Year's offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Do you know what to do when a car is pulled over on the side of the road? First, reduce your speed. Second, change lanes if possible. Third, proceed with caution. These 3 simple steps can be the difference between life and death. The next time you're on the road, do the right thing. Slow down, move over, and drive like your life and their life depends on it. Sponsored by the Illinois Broadcasters Association. Aired in cooperation with this station. Thanks to the AAA Auto Club for their financial support in the airing of this message.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Chief Justice John Roberts has just issued his annual report on the federal judiciary. In it, he warned that officials from across the political spectrum have shown disregard for federal court rulings. In fact, both sides aren't equally guilty. President Trump has been critical of some Supreme Court cases and federal court judges, but he's never defied a Supreme Court case. Joe Biden has. The court struck down his student loan forgiveness program, but he went ahead anyway, and even boasted about it. Biden also attacked the Supreme Court in a State of the Union address. He then stood by as his Justice Department refused to protect justices from assassination attempts after they overturned Roe v. Wade. Perhaps the Chief Justice wanted to sound even-handed, but Donald Trump has abided by all Supreme Court decisions and has never attacked the court's institutional integrity. The distinction matters.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
AM 560, The Answer. We now return to the real story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. Wow, it's been a fast night already. There's so much to talk about. You just can't make up the headlines that have come out just this year. Some of them are going to be headlines of the year. They're not just going to be, a one-week story. They're going to continue to fester and grow as we try to tackle basically what has been completely revealed, which is incompetence at so many levels by elected officials out there. Just to add a little bit of an end point on our discussion in the last half hour about DEI and firefighters, and we've been talking about it all night, basically. This is interesting. New York Post came out with this. The Los Angeles Fire Department's $300,000 a year diversity chief sparked a fury for defending DEI, blaming the victim. And we've got a little bit of a clip from this. This is a promotional video that they actually put out explaining how, yes, of course, that female firefighter, the one that Adam Carolla described, 5'0", 105 pounds, is going to save you. Well, this was their response to questions about whether or not their female firefighters can actually save one. And by the way, the person who is speaking here in this is is Deputy Chief Kristen Larson. She heads the Equity and Human Resources Bureau, and she addressed the accusation that female firefighters aren't strong enough to carry a man by saying this.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Oh, so it's the victim's fault. If I can't carry out of the fire, then it's your fault. Anyway, you can't make it up. Anyway, moving on, but still talking about the California fires, I have a real expert here to dispel the myth of climate change had anything to do with this catastrophic fire. And that's Steve Goreham. He's the executive director for the Climate Science Coalition of America and author of 4 books on energy, climate change, sustainable development, and public policy, with over 100,000 copies in print. He is an Illinoisan as well. His latest book is The Green Breakdown, The Coming Renewable Energy Failure. And he wrote me a little email a while back saying, is 2025 going to be the end of green energy? And then the California fires hit. And I said, well, Steve, actually, I really want you to dispel some of these myths about what's going on in Los Angeles. And, we do know wildfires are raging near Los Angeles, California. Are these due to human-caused global warming, as some are claiming? And welcome to the program, Steve. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Jeannie. Happy New Year. Great to join you again. Yeah, really a tragedy down in Southern California. A terrible situation, of course. More than 10,000 structures destroyed. It really is a testimony of the power of nature and what can happen. And they get these Santa Ana winds that blow out of Nevada and up to 100 miles an hour. They've had these before, but this seems to be the worst situation on record that they've had. And we do have some people claiming that your neighbor's SUV has to be causing all this, but that's really a kind of a sad situation. And they just need to find better ways to take proper measures to reduce the risk of fire.
Well, it does seem that seems to be that they are actually doing pretty well in the 20th century in terms of mitigating the I was reading from Wall Street Journal article before that, in the 1800s, they would burn 4.5 million acres a year. And now they were down to 250,000 acres a year. And then just in the recent years, they've been, wildfires are gotten out of control again. And it's up to 1.5 million acres a year. I mean, this is just amazing. The other part of this, though, is how does particular pollution from the large fire compare to pollution from vehicles? Because that's why they started down this whole green energy climate thing, is that we've got to get the pollution out of the air. And from pollution, they usually mean CO2. But if I'm not mistaken, I think firefighters are creating a lot of CO2.
Well, absolutely they are. Yeah, there's a mixture, unfortunately, in the press. They talk about air pollution.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about harmful pollution, and they mix greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, with things like particulates, which can actually cause a problem. And for many years, California's been pushing to reduce particulates as well. About 3 or 4 years ago, in January, they passed regulations on lawnmowers and leaf blowers to try and get the particle pollution down. But what's going on now in California is that the fires emit far more particulate pollution far more particles than all the vehicles, as a matter of fact. An expert from the University of California, Davis, has estimated that about 10,000 tons of what they call PM 2.5, which is a particle with a 2.5 micron diameter, small particle. But it's estimated that all the vehicles in California emit about 10,000 tons of PM 2.5 in a year. But one of these large fires, a typical large fire, can do this in a week. And so the fires down in right now around Los Angeles probably have emitted more particle pollution than all the vehicles in California for a number of years, many years. So, this really is a big issue they should be focusing on instead of leaf blowers and lawnmowers. And again, a very tough situation. By the way, the other thing they did back in that same year when they passed a regulation on leaf blowers and lawnmowers, they legalized recreational marijuana use. And the average, a single marijuana cigarette, or a regular cigarette for that matter, the user inhales about 100 billion small particles. And again, one marijuana joint is about is about the same as breathing the air in California for a year. So if they really want to reduce particulate pollution, number one is forest fires. Number two is smoking. I mean, if that's what you're after, it's not all this other stuff that they're trying to pass regulations on.
That's a really good point. I'm going to keep that in the back of my head because, we've got a massive marijuana industry here that the government likes a lot. Okay, so let's go on because, before the California wildfires, started up, and I think that it's really going to kind of be a game changer. I think there will be people that wake up to this, and I think they'll want their money spent in better ways on the right things. And so my hope is that some of this green energy stuff, not just because of Trump, but because consumers are rejecting it, I'm hoping that, like you are intimating, that in 2025, it may be the year that dooms green energy. What indicators do you see at this point that might happen?
Yeah, so let me correct your first statement. I don't think green energy is going to end in 2025. It's going to be many decades, but I do think the pendulum is going to start swinging back. 4 big indicators. One is the tremendous need for electricity driven by artificial intelligence. That's going to stop closing of power plants and things. What's going on with the EV slowdown. And then the third item is wind and solar and battery problems. There are just problems getting worse and worse and worse with those systems. And finally, of course, the Trump administration policies. We're going to have a big change in energy policy starting in a few days. And these things are going to make renewables very, very tough to go forward.
So there are some states, though, that may, take it to the next level. And I think Illinois is one of them. They're going to try, and they've already tried that because they wrote this skinny energy package, this skinny change to CEJA. And essentially what they did is they incentivized more battery, giving them a high impact business status, meaning that they're eligible for additional subsidies. And so, and battery technology, battery storage is probably the worst and most expensive way to actually put energy to the grid.
Yeah, it's very, very expensive. And anywhere they put they're going to put these batteries in, electricity rates are going to skyrocket. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory estimates that to put down a solar installation costs about $1 million per megawatt. But then to back that solar system up for a single day, you have to spend $9 million in batteries. And the battery life is only about half of the solar life. So to back up a solar system or a wind system, the battery cost is more than 10 times the cost of the solar and wind system itself. And this is the situation, but we have Illinois, we have New York, we have California and others trying to put in a lot of these batteries. And by the way, I just learned a week ago, they had 3 fires in New York, grid battery fires this last summer. That really didn't get into the press very much.
No, it didn't.
They don't have many batteries right now. They want to build 20 times as many batteries. By the way, one of those fires burned for 4 days, and these things just they're very volatile. They can explode and burn. Just another problem with renewables and batteries and wind.
But, I cannot stress it enough to my listeners, especially if you're sitting in Illinois. This is they just passed this bill on Tuesday out of the House that incentivizes battery storage. Why? Because they cannot get enough solar and wind to the grid right now because they have transmissions issues. And so they think part of the solution is to store that sunshine in a battery. And so but it's really, really costly to this. And it doesn't matter, wind or solar battery, it all needs a backup when it's not producing and when it's not working, when it's been, just by sitting there in storage, it's been depleted. Batteries, look, my husband builds this stuff. Okay. He builds transmission lines. He built 4 miles of new transmission line, high voltage stuff in Staten Island. It took 2.5 years when he got started with the project and already been in process for 1.5 years. It's really, really expensive to do this work. He did it through a garbage dump. You can't do any of this. Batteries are only good for like your laptop, your cell phone, something like that. They are not meant to put grid level energy up.
No, they aren't. And by the way, that's transmission. Transmission is another big issue with wind and solar because wind and solar require 100 times the land of a nuclear, a gas, or or a coal power plant, 100 times the land. And so you have to build out to remote areas, up on ridges, out in the ocean. You have to build all this transmission. You require 2 or 3 times more transmission than you need with a traditional power system, and then it's very, very expensive as well.
It's impossible to do. It's actually impossible to do. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more great information from Steve Goreham. Stay tuned. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka says we're watching the master.
I'm going to ask him right now, would you make it $200 million? And said,
how perfect is that? You've got the guy right next to you. He's just committed $100 billion. Hey, dude, you want to double it? That is the perfection.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Can you believe it? 2025 is here. As you start this new year, you have probably been thinking about your resolutions. And let's be honest, your well-being has probably been on top of your list for years. But this year, maintaining your wellness goals is easier than ever with Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature's whole food ingredient supplements have 31 varieties of fruit and vegetable ingredients, from tomatoes to sweet potatoes. No synthetics or added fillers. Finally, a resolution that will be a breeze to keep. Make 2025 the year you feel your best, and keep celebrating for years to come. Happy New Year! Start the year right and get big savings on Balance of Nature supplements with our limited time New Year's deal. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first preferred set, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. And get this exclusive New Year's offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95. An easy, affordable way to see how it could literally change your life, like it has mine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. Trying it couldn't be easier with their 3-week quick start for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. And it just takes a phone call to 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, every day you feel better is a day you live better. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start. Visit ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com, or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF for Relief Factor.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
You're listening to The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
Hey, welcome back. It's The Real Story with Jeannie Ives, and I still have Steve Goreham with me on the phone. And we are, he's the executive director of the Climate Science Coalition of America, and we've been talking a lot about the renewable energy and what's the outlook for it in 2025. That also includes things that feed off the renewable energy. So your electric car sales. And I don't know if you knew this, Steve, but J.B. Pritzker announced in December almost $20 million for 70 zero-emission buses for 9 Illinois school districts.
Yeah, I heard that, and I think maybe you alerted me to that. That's... Boy, I know. I've told my kids and grandkids don't go on electric school buses. I think there's a big risk there. I sometimes show when I present, I show pictures of these buses that are blowing up in London, in Paris, in China. There's one in China with one at an intersection that has exploded in flames, and there are people literally jumping out of the door on top of each other. And by the way, these things are 2 or 3 times as expensive as a regular diesel school bus or a propane bus, which we have a lot of those on the roads now as well. But yeah, more than $2 billion came from the Biden administration, and I think Illinois got a bunch of that money.
Well, at the same time, Lion Electric Bus Company down in Joliet completely folded. They're in bankruptcy. I mean, it's just not. They don't have a good model here. It's not working.
Yep. The history's been terrible. If you look at the history of these electric buses in Canada and all around the world, they're always going bankrupt. They don't run. They can't get parts for them. I mean, they're just on and on, problem after problem. But again, this is the philosophy that we have to force everybody to drive electric buses or electric cars in order to stop the oceans from rising. That is modern superstition, just the craziest thing.
So do you think that there is going to be a little bit more of an, reality check for these electric, car companies? I mean, Rivian, they got a big, massive payout. I think VW is going to come in with $1 billion. The state of Illinois gave them $827 million in incentives. They had already gotten $50 million prior to that. They got cut a check for $75 million directly to them, straight to their bottom line. Yet this is the same company, speaking of buses, the same company that contacted the normal bus transit system and said, hey, we're having trouble charging our vehicles. How do you charge your buses? And the response was, we only charge them during the winter. We charge them inside a heated garage, but never between the hours of 2 to 7 p.m. because it's too expensive.
That's cost effective, right? Now you got to heat this garage so you can charge your buses.
Yeah.
Well, the EV market stalled this last year. U.S. EV share was up just a little bit. EV pickups are not selling. Only about 1% of pickup truck share has become EVs. In Europe, EV sales fell 9%, and the share declined to 15%, down from about 20%. And Tesla, just a week ago, announced that their sales fell for the first time since 2012. So the market is not going well. And now President Trump is going to get in there, and he's going to try to eliminate all those EV tax credits, $7,500 on an EV. And and the resale tax credits as well. If he's able to do that, I think they're going to have to pass something through Congress to get that done. It's going to be a big market slowdown as well.
Well, they could possibly do that in reconciliation with the, extending the tax credits because it goes within that same realm.
Yeah.
We're hopeful. So what else do you see from other states that gives you a little bit of hope that perhaps there's more reality coming forward?
There's two crazy things that are just occurring. In Oklahoma, they had hundreds of people march on their legislature, and they were demanding a ban on all wind and solar projects in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma get about 40% of electricity from wind and solar right now, but the cities and counties don't want any more of them. And what these states have done in the past is they just ignore the local folks, and they just say, well, you can just build it. We'll do it from a state level. And so they are pushing there to get a ban on new wind and solar. And then out in Wyoming, Senator Sherry Steinmetz, the state senator, just introduced a bill that was, quote, make carbon dioxide great again, no net zero. And, they have said, well, we want to have net zero from our power plants, which run mostly on coal. We want to capture carbon dioxide. And so they've now introduced a bill there to stop that. So, we haven't seen this in the past, but we have some states starting to push back on this climate nonsense. Maybe this is the beginning of the pendulum swinging back to common sense.
Well, speaking of, another dose of common sense when you're looking a little bit at larger scale, I do know that, what is it? Oh, yes. Banks are now leaving the Net Zero Climate Alliance.
Yep,
do you think that's going to have an impact?
U.S. banks. Yep.
Yeah, isn't that the alliance that marries up financing with the global climate fight? And essentially, they weren't going to be willing to finance certain, I guess, fossil fuel stuff, or is it
right?
They were
wind and gas and all that. Well, what happened was we had a bunch of U.S. states that said, well, we're going to cut out all our pension money. Texas, West Virginia, Florida, and a number of others. More and more states were saying, well, we're not going to buy your funds. And so they said, okay, maybe we're going to withdraw from this. So they've taken a little softer tone, although a number of these banks, their European branches have not changed yet. So it really depends what the government situation is. But, yeah, this could be the year. And by the way, those offshore wind turbines are going to have a lot of problems, too. President Trump has talked about shutting those down.
Right.
You know, we just had a turbine break up near Nantucket, a single blade, 350 feet long of fiberglass. It washed up on the beaches, and it took 6 trucks to take all the fiberglass debris away from a single wind turbine blade. Now, and off the coast of New Jersey, I've got a map that I used recently. I sent you a copy. There were 51 tropical storms and 26 hurricanes in the last 170 years. So about every 2.5 years, they get a hurricane or tropical storm. Wait till one of those hits a whole wind turbine farm and just destroys the thing. They're going to have mountains of debris on Long Island and Nantucket or Virginia Beach. All these places just not going to be good. They were screaming.
Wow.
They were screaming in Massachusetts about one wind turbine breaking up in the town halls. Just wait till we have this kind of disaster.
Well,
of course, who will pay for all this? It's the taxpayers to fix these things again.
Well, that's what's really so frustrating. Whether it's what you're looking at with the California wildfires, where Biden has now said that he's going to pay for the next 6 months of all expenses related to this, including $200,000 firefighter salaries. Plus $90,000 in benefits they get. Anyway, I mean, this is, but I don't want to pay for it, and I'm not the one who's stupid enough to buy into this, and yet our fellow Americans have taken us down this road, where now, if you do say that you think that eventually this is going to somewhat get undone, but we're going to be left with massive acres of solar farms that are going to be rotting there, leaching out harmful chemicals. And so we've got a huge cleanup mess on our hands because we never actually looked at concentrated power with a small footprint that actually works day in, day out, every hour, every minute. And I don't know where we got to this level of incompetence in our collective heads. And then we elevated these people to the most powerful positions. But that's what we did as a society, and we're going to pay for it.
Fear is a powerful motivator, the fear of climate change, climatism. But as I predict in Green Breakdown, I think in about 40 years, we're going to have the young people around the world who are environmentalists. They're going to be out there tearing down wind turbines and cleaning up all these solar installations. That's going to be a big environmental improvement.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it, especially coming on a Sunday night and discussing this issue. Again, it's Steve Goreham, Executive Director for the Climate Science Coalition of America. He's author of 4 books. His latest book is Green Breakdown, The Coming Renewable Energy Failure. And you can get his information at stevegoreham.com. Steve, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jeannie.
All right. Have a great night. Okay, right after this break, we'll take Jim's phone call from Elgin, and then we're going to have the Watchdogs on. They've got, of course, another bunch of stories that speak to the incompetence of elected officials. Okay, we'll be right back. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Larry Elder is stunned by the numbers.
Check this latest poll result. 41% of young Americans say killing of the United Healthcare CEO was, quote, acceptable, close quote. I kid you not. So you're unhappy with rising healthcare costs, and that's what you want? 41% of young people say it's acceptable? Really?
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Aldinger, LA County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney.
I ask all Los Angeles County residents in the wildfire-prone areas to understand that the necessary public safety power shutoffs are important for our collective fire safety in preventing the next wildfire natural disaster.
Southern California heading into a second week of raging wildfires. A county medical examiner says the death toll has reached 24. It's expected to rise. Senate confirmation hearings for President-elect Trump's cabinet picks begin this week.
I've met with just about all of them. I support every one of these nominees. As the whip, my job is to make sure they get across the finish line, get on the job, and President Trump deserves a team early.
Majority Whip John Barrasso. America's listening to Fox News.
It's Reveille. In 2025, political correctness must end. No more pandering to sentimentalists on any issue anywhere. Government officials, corporate hotshots, the media, and nearly every local school superintendent have become masters at not speaking truth and instead making sure no one is ever offended, no matter how wrong they might be. Donald Trump's victory in many respects is due to Americans rejecting the politically correct narrative forced on them by these elitists for the last 2 decades. They see what their kids have been subjected to in the classroom. They know how they've been silenced at work, and they're sick of having to sit through politically correct commercials made by woke marketing firms. The result of political correctness isn't just wrongfully silencing others or indoctrinating our youth. The alarming stories coming out of the UK about what political correctness has beget should ensure we are all now brave enough to speak up when truth requires it. It is alleged that police, prosecutors, social welfare groups, and politicians ignored the horrific rape of minors perpetrated by gangs of immigrants of Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslim background. Dominic Green in The Free Press wrote, "The serial rape of thousands of English girls went on for many years. Few in power cared." Green noted, quote, "Social workers were intimidated into silence. Local police ignored, excused, and even abetted pedophile rapists across dozens of cities. Senior police and Home Office officials deliberately avoided action in the name of maintaining what they called community relations. Charities, NGOs, and labor MPs accused those who discussed the scandal of racism and Islamophobia," end quote. It's bad enough that our woke school boards won't stand up to the trans agenda. God forbid our country, in the name of political correctness, would ever refuse to protect children from horrific crimes like these so as not to offend. I'm Jeannie Ives. Check out The Real Story with me Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
Hi, I'm Michael Alfaro, host of The Michael Alfaro Show. Join me each week as we tackle the issues you want to know more about, like foreign and national policies, how big money influences Washington, D.C., and so much more. Learn firsthand from elected officials and political insiders about the important policy decisions changing our world. Find me at michaelalfaroshow.com and then join me, Michael Alfaro, every Saturday evening at 7, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Come on with this, people. Move it!
Did you really think you could make that company deliver yourself?
Oh, I cannot handle any more traffic.
You could be getting much more done at your place of business.
I've wasted 45 minutes and now this place is gonna close.
Time is money. Let Quick Delivery Service take on the traffic hassle for you. They'll deliver almost anything, from large pallets of materials to important documents, or both. No forms, no labels, no scanning. Just tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going, they'll pick it up, and get it to your destination quickly. Your cargo delivery is tracked in real time with GPS. Notifications are delivered right to your inbox. Visit quickdelivery.com. That's quickdelivery.com. Or you can deliver like this.
Seriously, another train?
Or get your delivery there on time with quickdelivery.com. Or call 847-534-2244. 847-534-2244.
Hi, this is Carl Amari.
I'm Lisa Wolf. Join us every Saturday night beginning at 8 p.m. for all things entertainment on Hollywood 360.
If you love classic radio shows, The Shadow, Jack Benny, The Lone Ranger, Dragnet, Gunsmoke, and many more, we have them for you on Hollywood 360.
We'll also present trivia contests with prizes, showbiz news, celebrity interviews, games, and movie reviews.
So don't miss Hollywood 360 every Saturday night beginning at 8 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
We now return to The Real Story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. Thanks a lot for listening tonight. The phone number here, 312-642-5600. And we're going to take a quick call from Jim in South Elgin. Jim, you are on The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. Thanks so much for calling in. Do we have Jim?
Hey, how are you? Happy New Year's.
Yeah, Happy New Year's.
A lot of good topics. I just sent you a picture of a solar panel on top of a roof in Rockford, Illinois, covered with snow.
Exactly.
So you can see how much energy is being produced.
None.
And also, there's a dangerous precedent now, lawfare. The governor, the awful governor of New York, just signed the legislation last month to basically fine the energy companies for contributing to climate change.
All energy companies?
Well, some. I sent you the cover.
Oh, okay.
You can check it out. And then also, Newsmax published also last month about these people that have orchestrated a series of lawsuits to go after energy companies, after big oil.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what, then they completely, big oil, I mean, thank God we're going to have Chris Wright in from Liberty Oil. He's going to be in for the energy secretary, which is fantastic. He's the one who slapped down North Face and said, look, 90% of your material, of your product is made from oil. 90% is made from oil.
Right.
What do people not know that? I think people don't know that.
Well, that's true.
All your fancy nylons are oil-based. There are so many products that are from oil. You can't make plastics without oil. And in fact, I don't care. Your Amazon package comes, at some point in the pipeline, it got shipped using some sort of gas-based vehicle. There's no doubt. Or airplane, or ship, or you name it. What do you think? They got a little windmill on the back of one of those container ships to bring your product in from China?
Yeah,
all right,
maybe they had
whatever.
Maybe they had too many beans to eat the night before. They have a lot of gas.
Yeah, who knows? All right, Jim. Okay, thanks a lot for joining me. Okay, you know what? You heard the music. It's time for the Watchdogs. And we're going to start with John. John, thank you so much for joining us. I'm reading this referendum Rantoul story you teed up. Why don't you explain it a little bit? It's very interesting.
Well, thanks for having us on again, Jeannie.
Oh my gosh,
so
you guys
let me
are the
start
best.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Back in early 2018, residents of Rantoul contacted us, wanted to know how they could go about changing the city to a minority representation. And we researched it, and we're like, hey, you can't do it. It's only for cities. For villages, you got to go this route. You got to go force the village into district representation for the village trustees instead of at-large representation.
Okay.
For the village trustees. So that passed. That passed in the November 2018 election. So it takes a few years to get the new trustees elected by district. So in 2021, in May, the village first started operating as a district representative, village with their trustees.
Okay.
23, a citizen filed a referendum to get rid of the district representation. It went to court with the electoral board and left it on the ballot. It went to court, and the court ruled just like the objector to the referendum thought should rule, that they can't have that referendum. It's premature because the municipal code says that when you first go to district representation, the village has to operate for a full 4 years, no less than a full 4 years, before any action can be taken to dissolve the district representation.
Well, that seems straightforward. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the guy that was proponent for the referendum stood up at the next village meeting and blamed the Watchdogs for causing Rantoul electoral board to spend money on attorneys.
He blamed you?
Yeah, we
You
had
and
nothing
Kirk.
to do with it. We were just there filming it and writing art.
But you were the... Wow. I mean, I don't know if you should be flattered or what.
Hey, people blame us for all kinds of stuff. Doesn't matter to us.
That's
What's
unreal.
right, what's wrong is wrong.
Oh my gosh.
So then we come up to this last December. The same guy files new petitions to dispose of the district representation in Rantoul. Well, if you remember, I told you that they didn't start operating as a district until May of 2021.
Right. So they still don't have 4 years.
Right. That would be May of 2025.
Can the guy not count?
Well, he thinks, since they won't actually take office till May, that he's good. But the court said the circulating of petitions and gathering signatures and getting it placed on the ballot and the dissolution happening is all one item. And none of those steps can happen until the full 4 years of operating as a district occurs. So they couldn't even collect signatures for the referendum before 4 years, so May of 2025. So in June, they can collect signatures for the next election if they want to, but they can't do it this time.
Well,
there is a
what would people do without you?
Hearing.
What would people do without you?
Hey, it wasn't us.
Yeah, but I mean, you helped. You led them down the right path, and then you were there to keep watch on them, and then you wrote the stories, and I'm sure your stories got shared among the community, so they understood.
But there's a guy in Rantoul that kind of keeps them on track.
Okay,
Jack
well, that's
Anderson.
good. Okay, good. That's good.
He's
It's
the
good.
one-
You
he's
got
the
to have a
one
local
objecting
watchdog.
to-
You guys can't do it all.
Yeah, he's objecting to the petitions, to the referendum petitions. That's Jack Anderson. He's a good guy. He knows what he's talking about. He knows how this process works.
Oh, that's great. That's just great.
We worked on him on other stuff too.
Good. Good
but-
job, Rantoul. You got a good guy down there.
But the reason for going to district is because initially I think 4 out of the 5 trustees were all in the northern part of the village.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is all the new houses and the higher priced houses, and everybody else south of town was like, hey, we're not getting any representation. Even with the districting, the people northern part of town, the more well-to-do areas, still have a majority of the board. So why they want to keep trying to get rid of districting is beyond me.
It makes no sense. I know. I mean, in Wheaton, we have 4 districts, north, south, east, west, and we have 2 at-large plus the mayor's at-large. And I think it works just fine. I think that there are different needs within a community, and you have to listen to what other people's have going on in their part of that bigger city. So, good job. Thank you for that story. That's great. Hey, we're gonna take a short break, and we'll be right back because Kirk's got a good story. I'm very interested in this one. It goes again to the competence question. The competence question. Is your government competent? That should be the determinant factor when you go to vote for somebody. Are they competent? I don't know. We'll see if we can make a change here. We'll see if California wakes up the whole rest of the country. Certainly Biden did to some degree. All right. Okay, we'll be right back. This is The Real Story.
The American military brings together brave men and women from across the country who have chosen to answer the call when their country needs them most. At aviatorfuel.com, we know the military because we live the military life. With books written by a Navy pilot and run by a hard-working military spouse, aviatorfuel.com is proud of our service and our country. That's why we never compromise on authenticity. Our cocktail books are modeled off the real Army, Navy, and Marine pilot checklists that military aviators have used for decades. But instead of a procedure on how to handle an engine fire, you'll find the procedure for how to make a mojito. From classic recipes to military specials like the Queen of Battle or the Afterburner, our cocktail books have something special for every veteran. So go to aviatorfuel.com and get ready to raise a glass to the brave men and women who serve our country. That's aviatorfuel.com.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Balance of nature is becoming pretty important out there to a lot of people. And when I first started, I was really impressed. I'm a healthcare professional, trained as a pharmacist. So anything that's natural, I like. And so it made a lot of sense.
Happy New Year! Start the year right and get big savings on Balance of Nature supplements with our limited time New Year's deal. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first preferred set, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive New Year's offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Do you know what to do when a car is pulled over on the side of the road? First, reduce your speed. Second, change lanes if possible. Third, proceed with caution. These 3 simple steps can be the difference between life and death. The next time you're on the road, do the right thing. Slow down, move over, and drive like your life and their life depends on it. Sponsored by the Illinois Broadcasters Association. Aired in cooperation with this station. Thanks to the AAA Auto Club for their financial support in the airing of this message.
Wealth Health Radio. The biggest fears that people have is, do I have enough money to retire? Retirement doesn't have to be complicated. To make sure that you're going through retirement with confidence. Learn principles of income planning. There's a lot of different facets that you need to take into consideration when you're retiring. Tune into Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, noon to 1 p.m. Sundays on AM 560. The Answer.
You're listening to The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. It is Jeannie Ives. Hey, listen, you know that I've been talking about this article, and it's homework for my listeners. You need to go to Palladium, Governance Futurism. Complex systems won't survive the competence crisis. And I had started to read the beginning of it. He talked about a number of things that had gone wrong because of incompetence. You know, the naval warships, 3 separate collisions, the East Palestine, Ohio stuff, pipeline carrying half of the East Coast gas line gets shut down, all in all. And the bottom line, he goes, the core issue is that changing political mores have established the systematic promotion of the unqualified and sidelining of the competent. And I wanted to bring that up ahead of this story because I believe, Kirk, this goes exactly to the situation that's happening on the Shelby County Board in appointing a convicted drug felon as their coroner.
Well, actually, there's 2 different appointments
Okay.
that address the incompetency.
Okay.
Tuesday, they posted their agenda, and about an hour before it posted, my phone blows up. So word got out, what was on the agenda. And lo and behold, they've got a guy that's a convicted felon, drug felon, production, delivery, possession, the whole gamut. And he's on the agenda to be appointed.
To the county board? Wait, to the county board or to what position?
Yes, to be accounted
county board
to
member.
the vacancy of the county board.
Okay.
Now, what's ironic with this, during the meeting, I asked during public comment, is this the same James Mitchell that's a convicted drug felon? They wouldn't answer my question. After the meeting, I asked the chairman, do you know if that is the same person, yes or no? Oh, I have no idea. Well, that's real special because we find out not only does he know, he's had conversations with other board members. He knows darn good and well he's a convicted felon, and the excuse was, well, there's a lot of other negative things on judici with current board members, and I'm not too worried about this one. That was the justification. So, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This guy's it's a Class 3 felony and a Class A misdemeanor is what he pled guilty to. They dropped the Class 1 for the guilty plea. He spent 52 days in jail for the misdemeanor and no jail time for the felony. Now, does that make any sense to you?
No, that makes no sense to me. Unless
That's
you're
our
in Kim
judicial
Fox,
system.
Type of situation. Judicial
No,
system.
he spent, according to the docket, he spent 52 days in jail. He's paid all of his fines and whatnot. And in Illinois, I believe it was November of 23 when the law passed. We now
I remember that law. I remember it. Mm-hmm.
We can have convicted felons, if they've served their time, they can now serve in local government.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have in this state. The door has been opened like I never thought possible.
And they had no other qualified people to fill a county board seat?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Oh, okay.
There's people out there.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm
it's
just
not
being
that hard.
Yeah, I'm being a little goofy there.
No, and there's people that have contacted me that said that they would definitely fill that seat. They can't believe that they went to this guy. The other shocker was the position of coroner. Their coroner passed away, so they have a vacancy to fill. And there was a guy that ran against him in the primary and lost. He was a deputy coroner.
He's actually the deputy coroner that exposed the past coroner, had never sworn in any of the deputies. And we ran a story on that. They didn't want to appoint him. They appointed a woman who has zero experience as a coroner, but she just happens to be one who donated about $20,000 for inputs to the county farm so they could farm the farm ground. So now they've appointed this woman, that has zero experience and completely ignored the head of the Illinois Coroners Association. His recommendation was for this other guy to be appointed.
Well,
completely ignored it.
Yeah, well, in DuPage County, the voters ignored the qualifications of Rich Jorgensen, the best coroner, I believe, in the entire state of Illinois, somebody who led on the opioid crisis, somebody whose opinion was sought across the state on a myriad of issues, a retired surgeon who had to retire because he had he developed an allergy to latex, and he was our coroner, super qualified to do that. And instead, the voters voted in a Democrat female with I think she's a nurse who can't find work. So what does that tell you? That's what I was told, that she is a nurse. Either she couldn't find. I mean, that's what I was told. Allegedly, she's a nurse who couldn't find work, was out of work nurse, and that's who they elected because she's a female Democrat. They ousted our longtime coroner, the best in the state, because they wanted a female Democrat.
Right, and they did the same thing up there with Bob Grogan.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure
auditor.
I believe 2 deputies resigned immediately. They're like, we're not working for her. Which actually,
Right.
that same story, that same article I was talking about, that same article talks about the same crisis and competencies because it all goes to the whole DEI thing. People basically hiring people, electing people based off of their, their skin color and their gender. And this entire article talks about that. And they basically say, just like these deputies resigned, they said, look, we're not going to work for somebody who's not competent.
Correct.
And so then the incompetence just spreads amongst the entire unit. It gets worse.
Did you see the top 3 fire officials out in LA? The one that was interviewed, I believe she's in charge of training, but also diversity.
Yeah, I saw that. Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they literally asked this woman, well, are you going to be able to, drag a man out that needs rescued? And her response was, he shouldn't have put himself in a position where he needed that to happen.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second. We got the clip. We'll play it again. This was on their promotional video as a response.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That person should be terminated. I mean, I just can't believe I've watched that on national television. I've worked in the fire service for so many years I can't even count anymore. I cannot imagine someone making a statement like that and still being employed. That is absolutely so appalling to me.
Yeah.
But it's all about the DEI, and that's what they've done. We have the competence of these operations across the state. I mean, we are literally getting what these people voted for.
Wasn't it the fire chief who said, well, it's not my responsibility to know where the water comes from. That I don't need to know where the water comes from. You're the fire chief. You're the fire chief of one of the largest firefighting operations in the country. She said that.
She said she didn't know how the water got to the hydrant.
It wasn't her.
You know what?
Yeah, because that's not part of her job. When we turn on the hydrants, the water should be there. I don't need to know where it comes from.
I'm sorry.
Paraphrasing, but that's basically what she said.
Every fire department out there goes through ISO inspections, and 1/3 of the ISO rating system is your water supply, and that is where it comes from, and they absolutely know how it gets to the hydrant.
Of course they need to know. She needs to know that the entire system is fail-safe. Otherwise, she puts her own members' lives in jeopardy. It's insane. Hey, that's all we have time for tonight. Thanks a lot for joining me on The Real Story. We'll be right back just to close out the night. I got a little bit more to talk about. Thanks a lot, John and Kirk. Really appreciate your work.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you'll get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $18.88. Upgrade to king-size for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever and receive free shipping on orders over $75. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. They have never been offered this low before. They're limited quantities at this price, so the limit is going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88, the lowest price ever.
Now, more of The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right. This is just basically enough time to say thanks for joining me tonight on The Real Story. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com. We also have a guest editorial up there. I think it is improperly placed on my name, but it's by Hank Beckman, a longtime writer. So anyway, we've got a lot going on. Stay tuned because 2025 is start out with a boatload of stories, and it's only going to get more interesting and hopefully better for America. God bless America. God bless you. Thanks for listening.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such